I am so excited to get to chat with you for the next hour or so and dig into all of the things that you've been doing, that you've been going through, that
Through,
you
yeah,
right? All of the things.
over
And
the
I
river and through through over the what is it? Through the river and over the I don't know, whatever that saying,
yeah,
whatever the
through
song
through the
is.
river, over the
Over the
bridge, through the
woods? I
woods.
don't know. Through the woods, over the river? I don't know. I've been
Truly.
through it all. There.
Mhm, mhm. And definitely, I think that, if it's all right with you, would love to hold a space today to have an honest conversation about how
Yeah,
life impacts business.
yeah,
And
for sure.
I think that you're someone who can definitely bring a lot of conversation to that table of not just the things that you've gone through, but also how you've pivoted because of that and how you've come back and how you've still been doing the work, so to speak, even if it's
Yeah,
been not as loud and not as prevalent and not as online. I
yeah,
know that, I have a lot of friends and clients, people in my community, biz besties, all the above, who deal with a lot of own personal things that, whether it be chronic illness or family or whatever, that can drastically impact our mood and our energy and our desire to do this. And I think you're an amazing example of someone who's navigating that out loud for a lot of us.
yeah.
And you've done that, not to like dive already into the deep, but like
Yeah,
you
no, it's good.
I
I'm
think
I'm
you've
I'm
done
I'm
that
good with the
so
I'm good
well.
with the deep dive. Let's get
Okay.
to it.
Yeah. Well, you've done that so well, and but just to reiterate, like you you have had such an impact on my business and why I'm truly even still here to this day, how I got started, the foundation of where I felt like I learned my business legs, and got them underneath my feet is absolutely because of you and the communities that you built and the spaces that you created. And the people that I still connect with to this day are because I met them in your spaces and in your rooms. I
Aw,
was interviewing Heidi Yarger the other day for this show, and I was like, "Heather's coming on next week. I'm so excited."
I just
And
talked
and
to
we
her
gushed
too,
about
yeah.
you. And
Yeah,
s
I think thank you for saying that. That's like I love hearing that, not because of me, just I've been like I've seen you from the beginning when you were a photographer.
yes,
That's
yes,
when we first had our first conversation and I
yep,
did coaching with you. And then before the partnership and we
yep,
had a long conversation about that and like you spoke at my conference. Like there's just been so many pieces that I loved watching the journey of not only you as a business owner, but you becoming a mom and,
mhm,
just all of it. And I think that's such a beautiful um journey that I get to be on. Like that's such a privilege for me that I've been on so many people's journeys and got to see them develop as humans and
mm,
also as business owners. And
yeah,
so it's been a wonderful ride for me too.
yeah.
I'm like the grandma of the industry now, but and I'm okay with that. Like I'm
And
all
I
about the
still feel
grandma
that way.
energy.
I feel that way now because 'cause I've been here for so long, and so, yeah.
So, I mean, I started my first business in 2004. So it's
Mhm.
been quite a journey of what? Yeah, 21 years. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think if I do the math correctly, I think I was this feels wild to say, 24, 25 when we met.
yeah,
That
yeah,
is what is bananas to me of just thinking back to like, my brother is 25 right now,
yeah,
and I'm
right.
like, "Who
Yeah.
how did I think that I could do anything that I was doing then?" It was just this, like, young person delusion that got me there.
Yeah, but I think I remember the conversations, like, I can remember them. That's the interesting thing too. I remember all these conversations that I've had with different people, and I remember the conversation we had at the different moments, right?
Yeah.
And, um, I think you were just like, you were so energized to, like, do it, right?
Mhm,
And,
mhm.
I was younger than too, so I had, a lot more energy as well, but yeah, it's been a fun crazy journey.
Mhm.
Think for, I think it's just life, right?
Yeah.
And and yeah, there's been a lot of bumps in the road, but also like really beautiful moments. And for me, and I know you are like relationships matter. Like I don't need the surface stuff really
Right.
anymore. And I think I'm 48, to be
Mhm.
48, to have done all the things that I've done, we'll also talk about, but I started a whole nother business last year.
Yeah, I can't wait to
So,
hear.
yeah, and, to be able to do all of that, I feel like I'm just thankful and grateful, because I'm not a very good employee,
Mm.
and I've known really is entrepreneurship, so except for the beginning when I worked for a law firm and then decided I hated it. Um, and so, yeah, I feel like and I have like, I've started a business, I've had a partnership, I've
Yeah.
sold a business, like, I've done a lot of things, like, in-person one-on-one stuff and online, and now I feel like it's, like, this full circle moment where I'm doing
Mhm.
these things where I thought I wouldn't be, like, running a law firm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who
Yeah, that
knew?
you got away from years ago.
Yeah, like, I didn't like it, and so now 21 years later, here I am again, and I actually really enjoy what I do because it's a different aspect of it, so yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that I learned from you, and I get just reiteration whenever I find myself at this point in life and business, is I used to definitely I feel like I learned it and then I had to unlearn it and then learn it again
Mm,
as our lessons, right, in life and
yeah,
business and all the things. But
yeah,
especially being young, I thought, okay, whatever I decide my business is today is what it's going to be forever. And then
mm,
what it is next is what it's going to be forever. And then what it is next is what it's going to be forever. And I felt like I
yeah,
had to learn and unlearn that lesson so many times. And even like beat myself up about like, man, it's changing again. I must not be consistent enough. I must not be diligent enough. I must not want this enough because yet here I am again, like pivoting and doing whatever. And
yeah,
when I look at you and some of your pivots have had to be forced. You had no other option than to
right,
pivot. And we'll definitely talk about that. And
yeah,
some pivots I'm sure came from new ideas or where you're being pulled or how you want to show up or whatever is impacted into those choices. And like you're saying, that is life. Like
mhm,
we get to
mhm,
design these businesses and these roles. And why wouldn't we let them ebb and flow with how we want to show up and how we want to work? And it doesn't have to mean anything else about
yeah.
who we are and what we do. Where did that lesson come from for you? Or is that something that you're still learning yourself?
Yeah. Well, I talk about it as business seasons. So,
Mhm.
in my new podcast called Built to Flow, and a book I'm writing called Built to Flow, and all a lab that I'm running is called Built to Flow.
Yes.
All the things I talk about business seasonality, and I talk about the four different seasons that there are, and I talk about them as in the words I use is expansion, integration, contraction, and recalibration. And I say that because everyone that we know, including us, have been through all those seasons.
Mhm.
And I think that we were brought up in especially the online space. I will say it was a little bit different when I wasn't in the online space. It was a different vibe, it was a different energy, but still I think it's theirs also too. I mean, definitely the seasons, but I think when we were in the online space and still am, I think we were brought up in it in a time where there was only one season talked about. It was
Mhm.
expansion, it was hustle,
Growth,
it was
scale.
grow,
Mhm.
scale, keep going. And I learned at a very early age because I have a huge family. So I say I come from a community because my dad was one of 11, and and I had a lot of deaths in my family, and so when I was growing up, I learned at a very early age how quickly life can pivot and things can change. And then when I was in law school, my 3rd year of law school, well, actually each year of law school, someone passed away. In
Rude.
the 3rd year, the 1st year was my grandmother was like the matriarch of our family. The 2nd year was my uncle, and then my 3rd year was my dad at the age of 44. He passed away of a heart attack suddenly, and I was in Oklahoma. I'm from Indiana. And that again, that moment changed everything for me because I was like, I had to step back and go, where am I? And is this what I want to be doing? And it's actually the reason why I didn't stay in law because I was
Mm,
like, this was really never my dream. It was really the only option that was posed to me. Like I was going to be a doctor
y
or an
yep.
attorney. And I just fell into that and I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. And so I wanted to do that all my life. And then when I got there, I was like, oh,
I actually don't
this
like it.
this doesn't feel good. And
Mhm.
so I really started being aware of like, I want my business when I created my first business, I want my business to fit into my life. I don't
Mhm.
want to have to fit my life into my business. But that was what the online space felt very much like I was squeezing my
Yeah.
life into my business. And that has never felt good. And so I think I've already, I mean, I've always resisted that hustle
Yeah.
bro marketing mentality.
Yeah.
But it's hard to show up and to be recognized as a voice in this space when you're surrounded by that noise. And so I always felt like I wasn't loud enough. I wasn't pushy enough. I
Mm,
wasn't in your face enough because I knew how important life was, and I was like,
yeah.
"This is not what life is about, people. So I
Yeah.
need you all to get it together, but
Yeah.
until then, I'm just gonna keep on the path and keep." I've been saying the same thing that I've been saying for
Yes.
20 years.
Yes. Yes. It's really funny for, for those of you listening who might be in year 3, year 4, year 5, year 1, whatever.
Yeah.
There is something so different with time of where when I started this show, my first episode went live in September, I think. I can't remember, very recently.
Yes.
And I had been sitting on this concept of man, I don't know if I could do a solo show. I
Oh,
knew I wanted to
yeah.
interview folks, but I had a podcast for years. I had done over 700 episodes with a business partner, and we would just riff and riff and riff. And I loved that conversation style so much that I was like, I think because I'm very much this person where I will declare something that I will never do, and then of course I change my mind,
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay,
of
I
course.
take that back. But I was very much the like, oh, I'll never have a podcast where I do solo episodes because I like no one wants to just hear me talk, or I don't have enough to say, or I don't know what I would say. And inevitably that changes. And this year, when I finally was getting the idea of this show, or I was sitting there thinking about concepts of what to share, and I'm like, I said this in 2014. I said
Mhm,
this in
mhm.
2012. I said this, I'm sure, on a coaching call with you about
Yep.
curriculum I wanted to put together. And the philosophies of how I think about business and how I consult and how I strategize has never changed. The tactics might have changed, the platforms are changed. There are definitely things that are existing now that didn't exist then, but the philosophy of the matter hasn't changed. And that's been really fun for I'll hit record and I'm like, guys, I said this like 15 years ago.
Same. Although I do think, yeah, there's the evolution of that
Yeah.
thought, right? Because
Yep.
we get older, we experience more, we work with more people,
Mhm.
the world changes, right? Our eyes open to a lot of things. And so I think I think for me, yeah, it's been that same message, but definitely the evolution of
Yeah.
that message and what it means to me and the people that I get to
Yeah.
work with.
Yeah.
Same for you, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I wanna talk about now the kind of what I feel like are some slight we as online business owners who have a public brand, there's also a public presence that comes along with that. And some of
Mm,
us have made a really big b- part of ourselves to be a part of our brand. We're more
yeah,
kind of venturing on that like influencer realm. And there are definitely some folks in this space who do that really well and who do
yeah,
it really authentically. And then there are other people who create very faceless brands. I think you and I both kind of fall somewhere in between. We're like, yes, here's some of my life and yes, here's some of business, but it's not like every day to day.
yeah.
And I know that as someone who's gone through, you know, infertility issues and adoption journeys and sharing parenting stuff to the level that I wanted to, there have been feedback of that, criticism of that, commentary of that, and also this like level of what do I quote unquote owe this space, this community that I
Mm,
have built, this audience,
mhm.
this room that I do very much love and pours into me all of the time. And how do I navigate that? And I think with everything that's gone in your life in the past, what was it a decade long experience with your daughter?
About 7, 8 years now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
while. I I
Yeah.
I think that you handled it really beautifully, but I wanna kinda talk about your decision to share that and to share what you did and not share what you didn't. And
Yeah.
did your business come into mind at all when that was obviously, when it was happening, it impacted your business, but in how you
Yeah.
talked about it?
I mean, again, I'm a grandma on the field, so started on Instagram when Instagram started.
Yeah, I mean,
So
same.
right? So, like, I feel like it was very different, and you kinda just showed your s you it was normal to
Mhm.
show kinda what was going on, and at that time, I had London. And so from the beginning, I was sharing our journey. And I'm just a person, like, I'm a pretty open book. So, like, if you ask me, I'll tell you what's going on. I don't sugarcoat things either. I'm just like, here it is. I think the journey that we're specifically talking about for anyone that's listening and doesn't know, my daughter was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, neuroblastoma, when she was 9, almost 10. My son was 4 at the time, and we didn't have our third child, Lavender, yet. So, during that time, I mean, it was right after,
It was
um,
right after.
yeah, so we had the conference where you spoke at, my
Mhm.
conference in, Scottsdale, Arizona, and then, I had started a membership. So I had a group program running, and then I started the membership, which had a ton of people that came into it, because before that, it was when Facebook groups were really popular, and I had
Yep.
close to 25,000 people in a Facebook group, and so that's how this grew. Um, and January, I launched the membership. February is when she was diagnosed. And
Mhm.
so, I say the floor was basically pulled out from under us. And it changed everything in our life. And of course, at that moment, I had to, for my business, like, decide what can stay and what can go, because a lot
Yeah.
of stuff had to be edited and taken out. At that time, I had a team of people that were really supportive of me. And at that point in my life, I was grateful to have that. There were other parts of my journey that I'm like, "Get rid of everybody," not because they were bad, it was just like, "I can't do this anymore, it's too much energy." I know you
Yeah.
can probably relate
Yep.
to that. And at the beginning, what I shared was a lot. I mean, I just shared with everything I was struggling with. I shared, gosh, what was happening and what we were going through, and I would share daily updates, on Instagram stories about in the post about, what we were, I mean, because it was intense. We were like chemotherapy, radiation. She went through 2
Mhm.
stem cell transplants, tons of surgeries. And this lasted for 6 years. And
Mhm.
so, um, I think for me, about what I'm sharing personally, I shared a lot, but I will say I always thought about what I was sharing about my daughter, because she
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
young and didn't, have a full say. But she was a 9-year-old that quickly became like a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
And so I just asked her, like, what can I share? What are you comfortable with? And she was very open with me. And I think that was, with her, my husband is not a social media person at all. So you
Mine
don't find
isn't
him
either,
anywhere.
yeah.
My kids think it's funny. They're like, "Mom's like a superstar. You can find her anywhere online. Dad, you
Yep.
can't find anything about him."
I get recognized at farmers markets, and he's
Yeah.
just over there.
And so for me, we just kind of grew up in this online space. And so when social media was happening, that it was common to do all of that. I
Yeah.
will say, as she got older and became a teenager, again, I was just asking her. And she always had us, my husband and I really made sure that she had a voice through all of it, because I think a lot of times kids don't get that voice of decisions, and it's their body. Like, these are decisions she's
And their
having to
health
make.
and yeah.
Yeah, and she was so wise, and so, yeah, we made those decisions together as a family, really,
Yeah.
and I think then as time went on, I just I don't remember, it was actually probably a year before she passed away. She passed away in 2023, and, before that, I had, like, started a new Instagram account because I was just kind of, like, over the hype of you have to have this many followers and this.
Yeah.
And I will say during different parts of my journey, and I would love to hear from you. I bet you have similar, points that this happened to you, but it was almost like an identity crisis for me. And I can think of 2 specifically. One was when I changed my Instagram and I was like, "I have no followers.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this
Uh-huh.
feels really weird, like I'm
Uh-huh.
starting all over." But I loved the excitement and the energy and, like, the experiment of it. And I was like, "F it, I don't care. I don't care how many followers I have. I know if I'm being true to myself, I know that that doesn't matter."
Right, right.
Um, so then that was, like, this one thing, but then when I had my 3rd child, when I kinda and then COVID was happening, all of 2020, London was back in cancer, I was homeschooling both kids, we had companies running, like, we had so many levers that I was pulling on. I was like, "I gotta pull back for a second," and so
Yeah.
I didn't take on any more, clients at that moment, but I had a lot of one-on-one clients then, and I because I wasn't taking on any more clients, I had a huge identity, like, crisis of, like, "I'm not an entrepreneur now, like, what am I doing?"
Uh-huh.
And thankfully, I've been in therapy, like you,
Huh?
for a
Yep.
long time. I've been in therapy, and I had to walk through therapy a lot with that, and
Yeah.
we had to dig into that of, like, I am more than an entrepreneur.
Yep.
I am more than a mother.
Yep.
And 2020 is when it all hit, and it was a shit show.
Mhm.
Yes, it
I was like,
was. I was, like, crumbling. I'm like, "I'm holding a baby. I'm trying to hold it all together. I'm trying to homeschool the kids. I'm
ugh,
trying to hold the businesses together, our marriage together, cancer, like, intense treatments in the hospital." That's the other thing. She was always in the hospital, so we
yeah,
lived in the hospital, and my husband and I were like 2 ships passing in the night. So
yeah.
all of that to say, a lot of times I had these moments of like, what the hell am I doing? And I don't know who I am anymore. And those moments were really hard, but also really beautiful in
Mhm.
kind of that next evolution of who I
Yeah,
became from that. So,
yeah. That is exactly how I felt when I left my previous company
mhm,
and went out on my own, so
yeah.
2023, and I've talked about that in nuggets here, I've written about it. Thank God for therapy. Thank God
Mhm,
for
mhm.
spaces for people who don't judge the ugly and the weird
Yeah.
thoughts and the self-reflection that isn't true. My therapist had an amazing exercise where, because I've been in therapy in and out my entire life,
Yeah.
coming from, divorced kiddos and mental health and all the things, like that's just what happens. Um, but it had been a minute since I had been back in therapy, and I specifically was seeking someone where I didn't just want talk therapy. I can intellectualize myself out of a problem all of the time. I understand why I think this way. I understand why this is happening. It doesn't make a difference unless I'm like actually processing it. And I didn't know how to do that. And so I sought after the most woo therapist I could find because I'm like, I have to try something new. I have
Yeah.
to try something new. I have to get
Yeah.
out of this. Like, sometimes for me, talk therapy can feel like rumination because I've already had this conversation in my brain on the way here, in the shower, at night when I can't sleep. Like I've already talked about it. And I need homework. I need a new perspective. And so I got this incredible recommendation from a very dear friend, and she introduced me to her name's Phoenix. She's here in Kansas City. If you are looking for a woo therapist who like actively believes in science and, like,
Mhm.
shows you where woo proves science and science proves woo, like, that is my
Yeah.
favorite part, right?
Yeah.
She's incredible, and she did this experiment or activity with me truly day 1. I was like, "Oh, we are diving in," and she does this thing where she has you it's some of it's, like, very inner child work, and you're kind of, like, working through past things, but she has you uncover she truly ask you the right questions at the right time to uncover what she calls your root lie. And it is this statement that you say is true, that your body believes is true, that your mind believes is true, that isn't true. It isn't actually true. And that root lie impacts literally every single thing that you not just do, but that you think and what you make things mean and all of the things. And so when we uncovered that, it was a sob fest for me. But what was really, really cool is that I did start seeing her before I left my previous company, luckily, and we had started on some of that work. And then everything kind of snowballed really quickly, really rapidly for when I mean, it was like Memorial Day weekend when I was like, "Oh, I think this actually might not go the way that I think it's gonna go."
Mm.
And then 6 weeks later, I was gone, and it was wild. And so I used that summer to be sad and process and grieve and
Yeah.
sit in that office and say things like, everything I had just built in the past 8.5 years is gone.
Yeah.
Do I have a business? Do I want to do business again? Am
Yeah.
I good enough to do business on my own? Like, all of those things that come up when those big changes are happening. And truly, it was therapy and just doing it again that got me back to loving it again and
Yeah.
deciding my own rules of how I wanted it to work this time.
And I think the beauty is that we get to do it from experience, but we
Yes.
also get to do it with a beginner, uh, kind of mindset or
Yes.
energy, which
That
feels
blend.
both frightening and also very exciting at the same
Yeah.
time. Um, for me, I'm doing something right now and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm so excited about it." It's what I'm great at. I'm just great at business strategy. I'm great at coaching people. I'm great at relationships. Um, and I but I will say also, it's like there's a voice in my head. Well, mine for therapy is always the 2 things that always come up is I'm not enough or I'm too much because this is the back and forth I've been on my whole life.
Mhm.
I'm not enough for some people, I'm too much for other people, and everyone wants to decide whether I'm not good enough or I'm too much, and then it makes me feel like, "Okay, I'm too much or I'm not enough, and
Uh-huh.
where am I lying through all this?" And I have to stop that voice, not stop it, but really let it just kind of pass through,
Yeah.
on both ends because I know I'm really good at what I do. I'm also a really great mom. I've also been through a lot of crap in my life,
Mhm.
and I am just me. And I think it also comes with being 48 that
Yeah.
I'm just okay with who I am, and
Yeah.
I'm not changing that for anyone. I am definitely a learner. I'm all definitely, like
Yes.
doing therapy, growing, learning, opening up. I'm always open to new experiences. How can we do this differently? But also allowing myself to just be me and not prove myself anymore. And
Yeah.
that has been a journey, especially in the online space. When I've come up, and I'm sure you can relate to this, when you come up with a lot of people, you know, I won't name names, but who are really well known in the industry. And I'm like, I was there from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I'm not to say that they're bad entrepreneurs or definitely not bad people. It's just I think that you can be a really great marketer
Yes.
and market yourself into a place that the delivery or the on the delivery side might not be as great, and I'm not saying that about everyone, but I will say that where I sit now, I wouldn't change anything. I feel really good about, um, where I am, what I've done, and yeah, I'm just not here to prove myself
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I think kind of going back to the whole, like, I don't care about the followers and the engagement and the amount, and I know at the root end of it that that's not a metric that actually impacts my business. So, okay, if I'm still feeling a way about that, then that's the work that I need to be doing to kind of
yes.
disentangle that, right? Because the self-worth for me comes into that. And to let you all in on some of my therapy, my root lie, and this stems from when I was very, very young. When I ask for what I want, everything around me falls apart. And that has been
Mhm, mhm,
historically proven time and time again in my life in really, really big, really negative ways. And
mm,
so I can morph myself to be whatever you want and
mm,
do whatever it is that you want to not disturb the peace.
mhm,
And I can be this little chameleon for you because if I insert what I think needs to happen, it's all going to fall apart. And I've even tested it. This is more work I need to do at therapy, because I've tested it recently and where I've said what I wanted to say, and it was absolutely misunderstood and taken the exact wrong way, and that
mhm,
domino of what I picture in my mind of everything is now gonna be ruined was starting to
mhm.
happen again, and I was like, "Are
Yeah,
you kidding me?" Like, I
yeah,
don't understand. So that is still my work to do, because I, very much in times will talk about how I feel like a mirror ball, like a reflection of you, of whoever I'm working with, of like I emulate really well and can just step into that space and match energy, and I think that that's what makes me a great strategist, and it also what can quiet my voice sometimes
mm,
because I'm
mhm.
just being sometimes what you wanna see and what you wanna hear, and it's it's hard to unlearn those habits.
Yeah. I think for me, I don't necessarily have that struggle of, like, although I will say people have said I'm a chameleon too, just I think it's more of, like, how I've been able to move in through
Yeah.
the businesses and kind of adjust, and I've always been a person of like, you can see how the dots connect backwards, but
Mhm.
moving forward, a lot of people around me were like, "You're crazy." Like, when I left ball, they were like, "Oh my gosh, what are you gonna do? You've done, like, so much schooling and you have so much debt and all this stuff." And I'm just like, "I don't like it."
I don't care.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't like what I'm doing. And
Yep.
then when I started coaching, when I had the event planning business, which was my first business, people around me are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, business strategy, like, business is what I went to school for. I actually
Yeah.
went to school for business." So like, it feels really, like, normal to me to be doing this, and
Yeah.
people would ask me about it, and then when I wanted to sell the company and I was like, "I wanna go full-time into coaching," and my business partner was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," and I had started the business, and then 6 years in, she became my business partner, and then, uh, almost 6 years later, we sold it, and I was just ready to be done. I was like, I could see the vision of what I wanted my future to be, and it was I had spent way too many years in this space where I didn't think I would ever even be,
Yeah.
let alone be in there for 11 years. I was like,
Yeah.
"I'm done," and she wasn't ready to be done yet, and so we had it was a good ending, but, like, it was hard.
Mhm.
And I shared a lot of this with you when you were talking about
Mhm.
being a partner, but,
Mhm.
and said, "Hey, like, these are the things to think about because I've been through this." And I think in the beginning, and not to say, like, and not to blame anyone, right? It's like, I'm just like, it's a lesson that I learned. It's not
Yeah.
bad for anyone. It's just,
Right.
like, for me, what I needed at that time, I needed to move on. And I think that but I always listened to that voice that was like, "It's time." And
Yes.
it was never time for anyone else around me. It was
Yeah.
always before anyone else around me was, like, ready to say, like, "Yeah, you're
Call
totally,
it.
this makes sense." Yeah.
Yeah.
The same thing with when I was in I started coaching, um, I started a course, and then I was like, I did that, and I was like, "Ugh." I mean, back before everyone was doing a course,
You're
right?
right.
But I did a course and I was like, "This doesn't feel right to me." Like, I loved it. I was good at it at that time. I look back on it now, I'm like, "Oh gosh, that was
I know.
wow." But and then, I went from the course to the group programs and then, the Thrive Minds and then the conference and then
Mhm.
the membership, and it just kept moving on to the next thing. And I think when London was diagnosed with cancer, it really forced me, like you said before, forced me
Yeah.
to stop and go, "Whoa, what do you want?" Because I was just on this trajectory
Yep.
of, like, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And I was like, "Oh, I'm in my peak. Like this is
Mhm.
amazing. I'm making a lot of money. I love what I do. I'm getting to work with amazing people and have these relationships." And then it was like, whoop, the
Whoa.
floor was pulled under from under
Yep.
us. And I had to go, "Okay, what really matters? What can I keep? What can I, move on from?" And, and then take it to then London passed away 2 years ago, and that was a whole experience that we did not expect. We never even put in our mind that that was a possibility. We were always very positive throughout the process, even when it was increasingly hard. And you asked me earlier, like, what did you share? What did you decide to share and not? And I said, there's a lot of things that I wouldn't share online because I knew it would be too much for people to handle.
And oof.
I had learned, and my husband and I had been through so much to really like, we knew everything about chemotherapies,
Yeah.
radiations. We had
Yeah.
seen her, you know, gasping for breath. Like there was just so much. I could write a whole book just about that whole experience and like
Mhm.
the ups and downs of every day. And then being a very educated person and then having to had to advocate for her and then teach
Yes.
her how to advocate for herself and all of that. I feel like um taught us both that what really was important and then what needed to kind of, go away. But then again, when we started the law firm after she passed away, that was something I didn't expect.
Yeah.
And, like my husband wasn't even fully on board at first because we did it as partners.
Yeah.
And that was a whole other experience, and again, I think it just goes back to like people were like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm like, I see the vision.
Yes.
I can see it like 10 steps, 10
Yep.
years ahead, how
Yeah.
this can work for us. And sometimes it's like I gotta wait for people to jump on
To catch
board.
up. Mhm.
Yeah, to catch up to that. And it's not to say like I'm some genius person that knows all the things, but I'm really good at strategy. And so or in business and thinking
Mhm.
about all the pieces of it. And when you've been in it so long and you've had to do those things yourself,
Yeah.
like my husband laughed and he's like, "You can like do anything in a business." I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like,
Yes.
"I can figure anything
Yes.
out."
Yes.
I don't want to do it all anymore, but I
But I
could.
could. Yeah.
And that's like such a great place, but also like a curse because then you think, "Oh, I could just do that." And you're like, "No, no, no, no. I don't need to do that anymore." But then also I was gonna say also, it also is hard because now I feel like I'm doing the things again, and I'm like, "I probably shouldn't be doing this," but I'm kind of
100%.
excited about doing this
Yes.
again and being in this beginner state again. So it's just I don't know. I
Yeah.
call it the mind fuckery.
100%. It absolutely is, and it's for me, it's that, so I was baking I'm in my baking season right now, and
Love it, me
I've
too.
I love it so much. I've gotten some incredible cookbooks, baking books for my birthday and just recently, and one of them had a recipe for a Biscoff cookie butter cheesecake, and
Mm,
I have never made a cheesecake before in my entire life. I went out and I bought a spring foam pan, and I came home and I made this thing, and I made it for I think it was for a book club, and I am the type of person I think you're a little bit similar, and I think that you probably saw this in me too years ago, where, like, when I'm putting something out there and I'm doing something, it's gonna be done really fucking well. Like, it's
yeah.
just gonna be done really
Yeah, yeah,
well.
yeah. Yeah.
It's a weird, unique part of it's perfectionism, but, like, I don't know, I don't know what I think that there could be a whole study around that, but I make this thing and I do it, and, I mean, it is a perfect cheesecake. It is beautiful. It comes beautifully out of the pan. The crust doesn't crumble. It's firm. It is just beautiful, and so everyone's trying it, it's delicious, whatever. Later, the next day, my dad comes over and I get him a slice because 'cause I'm just like, "Oh my god, you have to try this. It's so good." And he takes a bite and he's like, "You could sell this." And Brian walks by and he's like, "Please don't, let's not, don't." And I'm like, "You know
No
what? I
big deal.
could."
I know.
But
All
it's
right.
that
As
for me.
entrepreneurs, yeah, we'll
Mhm.
always find a way to monetize it. And it's like, no, we can just have hobbies and do things for fun,
We
right?
can
Yeah.
just make cheesecakes for dessert and for
Yeah.
neighbors and for fun and just not have to
Yeah.
monetize it, for
I've
sure.
been like that with gardening and baking as well. I have a little one, Lavender's 5, so she loves to bake and mix. And then gardening really became part of my healing
Yeah.
when everything we were going through with London and after she passed away. We have a craft room in our house for the kids, and it part of it became my where I would grow seeds, plants
Yeah.
from seeds and do seedlings and stuff, and that really became a healing part for me. So I I love that we can have these things, and I think, I think as entrepreneurs, we do forget about that. Like, we get so
Yes.
jazzed about business, it's like and also family, like, family is so important to me, it always has been, so it's always been my number 1, and I think, as you become as becoming, a mom, which I've been a mom for a long time, but, um, through the journey, it's like, okay, where's the original Heather? Like,
Yes.
you have to give up pieces of yourself, right? For the business, for
Yep.
being a mom, then, when you're a caregiver, I became a nurse, really. I mean,
Mhm.
I was doing a lot of her injections, my husband and I
Mhm.
would have to change her dressings every day or like once a week. I mean, it was so intense. And I say this again, like I didn't share
Mhm.
even half of what we
Mhm.
went through, just
Mhm.
because I think that it would have been really challenging for most people to have to go through and endure. Like, if you saw it once, maybe, but, like, to endure
Sure.
it every single day, um,
Well, I also
it
feel like how I think about stuff like that is because I've been very cautious. There was a moment I've shared this before on a separate episode. There was a moment when so Penelope was born in January and we became parents through adoption, which it's just the timing and the like our lives like being so parallel is so funny to me because I announced at your conference where I spoke at that I was going to become a parent and I hadn't
yeah,
announced that anywhere else. It felt like such a safe room to do and I was really excited about that and I was dealing with my own like feelings about, infertility and not being pregnant and like all of
yeah,
the things that came along with that and
yeah,
just the journey of the cautiously optimistic feeling of adoption and anyone who's gone through that like can understand that feeling for sure and then Penelope was born in January. I spent my first Mother's Day at a baseball game, a sold out Royals baseball game, and I remember vividly. I'm wearing her, so she's strapped to my chest, and I have a beer, and I'm like walking back down to the steps, and someone calls out my name and like is climbing over people to like come talk to me and come say something, and she said some things, but she said, "Oh, I recognized your baby, but I didn't know if it was you or," and then she named my business partner at the time. And I'm like, that makes me feel a lot of
mm,
things that I
yeah,
don't love. And the
yeah,
fact that, like, even the snippet of what I had shared about my child online, that you recognize that from across a sold out baseball
mhm,
game, but
yeah,
didn't even know who I was and
yeah,
what my name was. So it was in that moment, I remember sitting back down and just being like, the kind of shocked and holding my drink. And Brian was like, "You good?" And I'm like, that was also the first time I had been recognized in public, which is also just an
yeah,
interesting feeling in and of itself, and it
yeah,
was just so awkward and uncomfortable, but it was from that moment that I decided to drastically pull back about not just what I shared about my kid. I completely stopped sharing her name,
yeah,
online, anything about I'd never shared about, like, where she went to school or, like I'm even careful to share, like, her grade and her age exactly and, like, all of the n just privacy, right?
yeah,
But I had done at that point a couple of interviews on some mom-focused podcast about adoption and about my journey and about how we got there and how I felt and all the things. And immediately I went home and I wanted him taken down. Like I didn't reach out, I didn't say anything, but like I I also felt like the version that I had shared of adoption, how we got there and what I felt was what I felt like was palatable for people.
mhm,
And
mhm,
the journey with adoption is never ending. It is
yeah,
a prevalent aspect of our life every single day.
yeah,
And some of the actions and the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions that come along with that, I don't think y'all could handle. And
yeah.
so I just don't. Like I don't bring it up at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we get to choose, right? At different like I get to choose where moving forward how much I want to share and don't. And it doesn't have to be the same as what I did in the past. And
Right.
I will say with, through London's journey, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, yeah, London," and I would just be like, "Oh, okay, like, that
Yeah.
feels like a lot." But I will say it also, I had a big community, and it was a time when everyone, showed up in such a
Yeah.
beautiful way, across the world,
Yeah, truly.
and still people across the world will be like, I used to watch The Journey, of you in
Mhm.
London and at the hospitals and all this stuff. And so I don't know. I think there's beautiful parts of it, but there's parts of it I'm like, oh gosh, it's also traumatizing
Yeah.
every time they mention this.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it is what it is. I've shared it, I live with that. But we also get to choose differently when we want to. And I think that's part of life and learning and growing, right? Whether it's in your business or just in life in general, and getting to choose differently than what we've chosen before because we know better, or we've learned more, or whatever it
Yeah.
is. Um yeah, and I think again, it's different seasons of business that we go through and life, and I feel like there's so much shame around it, right?
Mhm.
For me and for the people I've talked to, I just feel like it's so much shame of I'm not there. I thought I would be at a different place and I don't feel
Yep.
good about it because I'm not, or my business isn't going as I thought it would, or I'm having to work too much for my business and I really, want to be home at, and so with my family and stuff. And I'm just like, okay, then we can change that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And um, I think you have to be really honest with yourself, and just I think therapy has really helped me just process these feelings I have and just, like, get them out, and then be able to be aware of when these things pop up again. And yeah, for me, again, it's that I'm not enough or I'm too much, and, like, where do I show up and how do I show up so that, and I'm just like, I don't care anymore. I'm just gonna be who I am, and that's difficult still.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, yes. And getting to I think what's interesting, and tell me if you've dealt with this. Leaving my previous job and deciding to, I thought for a second, maybe I'm going to go to corporate world and like get a job job
Yeah,
that I've never had before, ever. I went from working part time at a bakery to starting my own business. And so, like,
yeah.
I don't know what that life is about. And I remember talking to,
For anyone that does it, I also say,
oh,
like,
100%.
it's just like, you do you, whatever makes
Yes.
you feel good, and if you have, like, the full-time 9 to 5, but you're doing a business on the side, or you don't have a business at all and you're 9 to, I just feel like we should be open to, like, it's
Yes.
okay for whatever works for
Yes.
each of us individually, and stop, like, shaming each other for where we
Yep.
are.
If you work 3 hours a week in your business and you do whatever else the other time, you're a business owner, and you're a legit
Right,
business owner, and you're doing
right.
it. So, like,
Yeah,
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 100%. But when I talked to a good friend of mine who is she's like career consultant. She's amazing. And she even offered to like work on my resume with me and do whatever. Cause I was having a lot of feels about like, I don't have any skills. I've never had a job. I don't know what I'm doing. And she's like,
mm,
stop saying that. Literally have held a job for the past 8.5 years.
yeah.
I don't know what you're saying. And I still sometimes deal with that. Like, if you make it up, is it real? Like, there's just a whole thing. All of this is made up, though. Like, literally, all of this is made up, even the quote unquote real jobs. Um,
Yeah,
and so she worked on that with me, and I got to the point where I was like gonna start actively like job searching and doing it. And I sat there and just cried and cried. And I'm like, I cannot think of anything worse and a more inefficient thing to do with my time than to try to find a job right now. I can go make money tomorrow. Like, what am I doing? And so
yeah,
I got back to it and made some phone calls, landed some clients, like proved that I could do it. But it was definitely that journey of like, okay, I'm coming back into a space that I've only been out of for 4 months at that time, but I wanna be a new version of myself. I wanna
yeah,
work with people in new ways. I wanna obviously, I'm having a new brand and a new everything, and part of that felt weird to me too. I don't know if you dealt with that of like,
yeah.
uh,
For sure I
do
did.
how do I reintroduce myself into
Yes,
this space that I really didn't leave? Question
yes.
mark. What was that
Same.
like for you?
No, same, same. I thought, okay. And then I think you think, okay, there's people that have known you forever. There's people that are just getting to know you. Okay, either they know everything about me or I've got to share everything about me so they
Right.
understand like where I'm coming from. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming.
Mhm.
And then I just decided, you know what? I'm just, again, I'm in this place right now. I'm so excited about what I'm doing. And it's one-on-one strategy and coaching.
Yes.
And it's all the things that people would tell you not to do.
Oh, girl, it's
Um,
what I tell people everyone to do.
I know you're different in that, but like, so many people will be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that after 21 years in business, you're back to this."
Mhm, mhm.
And I think a couple of things. One, I run a law firm, so I run the business side of the law firm, and my husband does the legal, and we have 11 team members. It's like a whole. It's interesting because I feel like we started that. It's like a multi-million-dollar company, and it operates very differently
Yes.
from my coaching that has been, made, a ton of money as
Uh-huh.
well, but they operate very differently, and I'm really cool with that right now. Like,
Yes.
I love that I get to do the strategy and, be the business leader in the law firm, but how that service-based business runs is very different from
Yeah.
the coaching and business strategy business, but I think I've learned so much from both of them, so
Mhm.
I can bring, like, a different piece of myself to each of those, and
Yes.
I think it's only made me stronger as a person, as, a business owner, and definitely as a leader and a strategist, so, um, yeah, but for me, it was like when I was going back to law, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing?" Like, I said I would never do this, and here I'm starting this company with my husband, and I don't and so and then I don't practice law, like, I have
Right,
no
right.
desire to, I just wanna do the business part.
Mhm.
And, I manage all the employees and do everything business
Yeah,
related,
yeah.
and it works
Would you say,
beautifully
like,
for us.
operations? Is that, like, business
Yeah,
development operations?
I'm the co-owner, COO of the
Okay.
company. Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Nice.
So, and that brings me in a lot of money, and I get to, I don't have to I'm not in the daily grind,
Yeah.
and I get to be like a supervisor managerial, position for the business, and then my husband's like the supervisor manager for the legal part. And so it feels really great because I'm not in the day to day, but I still get to really think about it as a strategist and how we would do things differently. And then
Yeah.
also with the humans that are clients, but also our team, and I get to work
Yeah.
with them, and really I'm a good nurturer, so I'm a mama bear, and so I love to like pour into them. And I think just doing it with my husband, I said I would never ever do a business
Yeah,
with him.
how is that?
We're very different in how like, just in every way.
Yeah.
But at the core, our values are the same, right? And
Yes.
the reason that we wanted to start this business because he had been in the legal world, and for anyone that isn't aware of the legal world and how it rolls, it's about 10 years behind like the online space, if not
Huh?
more. And so, I deal with things that are like, as an online business owner, everyone would laugh because I mean, I deal with so much email, and I'm like, oh
I'm
gosh, like
sure.
poke my eyeballs out, my ears out.
Paperwork.
Like, I don't want to read another email. And we talk about, oh, like, we're in Microsoft, which I was like,
Ugh.
I'm a Google, I'm like online, just like, it's hard. Um, I made a lot of compromises, but you learn as a leader how you have to do that with a team. And I think the difference is too, like when I had a team before, they were never full-time employees. Just a couple of them were, but like our whole team is full-time employees. So we're
Yeah.
talking full benefits, like all this stuff that is very different than my other job and my
Yeah.
other business. And I think just, yeah, how these different service businesses run is very cool too to see.
Yeah.
My identity in each of them is different. It's funny, my therapist is like, "Why do you keep saying your business? Like, you own both of the businesses. So why do you say your business?" I'm like, "Well, because I don't know, the coaching and strategy business, I think light me up and fill my cup more,
Yeah.
but I can do that at the way that I'm doing it right now because I do have this other business. And so I'm
Yeah.
open with people. I mean, I'm very open about that. Like I wouldn't necessarily give the same strategies, which I hate anyway. And I know you feel the same way
Mhm.
about just because of the way I did it. First of all, I'm a grandma, so those strategies don't work the same. But
Right.
also just life experiences and systemic barriers and all the things
Yep.
like chronic
Connections, network.
illnesses and
Yep.
like human design, right?
Yep.
All the things matter and will determine how you move in your business and what works for you and what doesn't. It's cool to see in my different businesses how I have to kind of do things a lot
Yeah.
differently
Yeah.
based off
Well,
of
I mean,
my
I
setup.
think I mean, you have figured out kind of the hack that I love and that I have, dipped my toe into in the consulting side a little bit of I did not realize, and I mean, even saying this out loud, it's like, duh, obvious. But, like, I did not realize how many industries outside of our bubble, our online business space do not know the, like, modern practices of business
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
systems and the tech and the communication and the automations and, like, the capabilities of just
Yes.
modernizing yourself and what that can do for your team and your communication and yada yada. And so I've been working with folks who are significantly older, like in their 60s,
Yep.
who are authors, TEDx speakers, and they are high level consultants and they've had their business for decades and decades and decades.
Yeah.
And it runs off of 75 spreadsheets
Yes.
and modernizing that and building some automations and all of the things. And it is blowing their minds,
Yes.
and their
Yeah.
team
Yeah.
loves it, they love it, and I'm over here like, if I ever just wanna feel like a rock star, I'm like, "Can we schedule a meeting? I have something cool to show you," and it's like, beep boop pop, and their minds are just blown, and the
Yeah.
efficiencies that I'm able to create for those industries that just don't have it is so
Yeah.
exciting, and I feel
Yeah.
like that's part of a little bit of maybe what you get out of that too.
Yeah, for sure. For the law firm, yeah, I'm like, "Oh, let's do this." But I will say, sometimes I'm like, "Let's do this." Like, I was like, "Okay, we all work remotely." So, like, our whole team that was the other thing when we started this. I was starting to say, when we started this law firm, we wanted to do it differently.
Yeah.
I was like, "We're gonna all be remote." And I think, for us in the online space, we're like, "Of course you
Okay,
are."
great.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, and what? Sure. But in the legal world, even though after COVID and everyone, did a lot of work from home stuff, it's very much not like that now. Most law firms want you to be back in the office and show your face and all this
Yeah.
like eh, wear a tie,
Mhm.
wear a suit, we're like,
Mhm.
no, no.
Mm-mm.
And so everyone works remotely, which means like when someone comes on, I got to set them up and get all their equipment to them. And
Yeah.
one of the things I was going to say is that I was like, we're using Macs, and I thought everyone was going to like dead on the floor
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
what
Yep.
we use PCs in the legal world. I was told, and I was like, well, we're using Macs. I refuse. This is
I
one thing
refuse.
I will not give into.
I'll use Microsoft before I use a PC.
I gave in to using Microsoft after I had set everything up in Google Workspace.
Oh,
Fine,
no.
whatever. I can tell you so many stories. But I am just like, look, we are moving into the future. And so, I will say that I will try to implement some things that I'm
Mhm.
like, this is what we should do. And then they're like, not
Mhm.
happening. Like, I was like,
Mhm.
let's do a monthly where you share your wins because in coaching, this is what I always do, and
That's
everyone
what we
loves
do.
it. Like, we're gonna share our wins. And they're like, yeah, no,
Oh.
we don't have time for that. And then I think it's also very cool to see just I say in the real world, but it's like all this talk, which I've always been against, but like 6 figures, 7 figures, like I don't give
Yeah.
a fuck. No one cares. Like, tell me how you're helping your clients, then
Yes.
I'm listening. I don't
Yep.
care how much money you particularly are making. It actually
Nope.
doesn't help me.
That
So
doesn't impact me at all.
doesn't impact me at all. And it's so funny because again, the real world, I call it,
Mhm.
in the legal world, you don't do that. Like,
No.
in most industries, you don't do that.
No.
And so it's so funny to be as like a insider, but an outsider to the online space because when I was starting the law firm, I stopped the coaching and consulting and business strategy for the year because I was like, all my energy.
Yeah.
I was like, clients, sorry, we have to stop. I'm going to do this, and we're moving on. And when I did that, I really got to observe and like with my popcorn,
Yeah, truly.
wow, this is an interesting space that I've been in my entire life. Wow, why do we do that? And just
Yes.
questioning everything.
Yes.
And I think there needs to be a lot more of that. Like, just in general with critical thinking, people, we could talk a whole other thing about that, but we won't today. But yeah, I think it was just making, and it made me think of like, why do we do that in the online space?
Yeah.
And all the looks I would always get from my husband, like, I don't understand what is happening. Why do people say that? Why do you believe that? Why do you think you have to do that? Um, it just allowed me to step in and out of both businesses and go,
Yep.
okay. Like I felt like I
Yeah.
was like, I found my space again of like, okay, you got this. You actually know a shit ton of information, but
Yes.
also like how things operate. But you can also, bring so much to both of these spaces. And that's been really cool. But I think it's because it's also been learning too and being open and willing to move through both spaces with a beginner mindset and a learner mindset of like, I don't know it all. And no one does. And we're going to keep moving forward and learning and getting better and growing. So,
I just keep picturing like the above the fold homepage of your all's law firm just being like, we made multiple seven figures last quarter, multiple seven-figure earning law. Like, how
no,
embarrassing.
like we don't even have social media. But I have a social media account, but we don't post on social media. Like no one's
You like
coming to us from
make it
social
real.
media. No, I get sold all the time of like, we could help you on social. I'm like, we have no, we
We're
don't need
good.
social media. That's not how we get business.
We're good.
Or like if you had an email marketing plan, I'm like, we don't do we send these people send enough email.
We
Please
don't need to
don't. I get 250 emails a day in the law firm. Please
say
do not send me another
gross,
email.
gross.
No. So
Well,
yeah.
walk us through the your business, the
Yes.
separate endeavor and of
The
what you've
quote
got
unquote
going on over
my
there.
business.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's always been Heather Crabtree, heathercrabtree.com, but now I have what I've built over the last year. I started writing the book. It all started from the book, from Built to Flow. Um, I took I was part of, the Book Academy, and I started writing the book, which I'm really excited about, but then I paused on it because I was learning so much just as I was going, I was like, "Oh, let's hold on this because I really want this to be done really well."
Yeah.
And the book is really gonna be about my journey of everything I've been through and through London and losing my father and all these moments that are intense, but also just building your biz or how you not building your business, but your business and the seasons that you go through. And then once you've identified your season, then looking at what are the core areas to focus on determined by like the season that you're in, and that all these seasons have power and have legitimacy and they're beautiful in their own way. And I think a lot of times when I talk about like contraction, it's when you're pulling back, right? Like pulling the onion pieces, the layers
Yep.
back. That can feel like unraveling of for so many that have been in business. And I just wanna put love around that and be like, "This is normal." And I just feel like that traditional business model that is still being pushed by a lot of people is
Mhm.
just so untrue for so many reasons.
Yep.
Whether that be, again, like I said, you're a caregiver, systemic barriers, chronic illnesses, like there's so many things that are not taken into consideration when you look at that traditional business model that really just talks about expansion, expansion, grow, 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 scale, 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 hustle, hustle,
Yep.
hustle. And it's like, yeah, that's not real life. That is a portion of that journey. And you have to have that not a lot of times, but in different parts so that you can
Uh-huh.
grow. But you can also grow in that dreaming stage that you're in, or the peeling back stage, or just The hardest part, I think, is like the integration stage where it's like everything's going well and now I'm bored. Like, I hate that stage, but that we need to set with and be okay with and know that that is a very critical stage, an important stage that we need to go through. So in the Built to Flow lab, I work with people one on one, but you're in a community. So you have that community aspect if you want it. Some people don't, and that's cool too. But we create a lab notebook and you get to come in and I worked with seasoned entrepreneurs, so people that have been in business for a while. So this is not for beginners. And yeah, that's where I am right now and I'm really excited about it. I'm actually just launching it. So it's like a whole new beginning. And then I'm once I do that, I'm going to get back into the book and writing the book and then my whole goal with any business that I have, especially this one, is really to create an ecosystem that I think from the beginning, even when it was, savvy, which was what I
Yeah.
had been known for before,
Yep.
savvy business owner, savvy community, that kind of stuff. I think my goal is the same. And I want it to be a community and a collective that we're not just pouring out, but we're pouring back into as well. And that you feel cared for. I think a lot of, coaches in the online space, we went through this, you got to scale it. And I feel like my personality, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? Too, if you are a person that doesn't want to be in it with your people and be the face and be like the person that they're talking to all the time, that's totally cool. It's a different model, right? And it's a different, I think, personality. For me, I just went through this whole thing with a strategist and I'm a transformational guide. So like relationships matter to me. So I want to be in it. I don't want to scale it so that I'm completely out of it. It doesn't
Mhm.
feel good to me.
Yep.
So, and I think that's not the model that is shown usually. That's kind of looked down upon
Yep.
if you
Well,
do
and
your
and
business
that's
in
what
that way.
I'm griping about on Threads all the time, I feel
Yeah.
like, where it's just like I think a lot of the online marketing bubble for sure attracted a lot of one-on-one done for you service providers who were burnt out and tired. They got me, right? I was a photographer and I was like, if I have to pick up this camera one more time, I'm going to throw it across the room. What
Yeah.
I didn't realize was that there were systems and boundaries and things that I could put into place that could make that experience better.
Right.
But I found education, I found strategy, I found teaching, and I love it so much. Like I could see truly no other path for me. I'm always going to have some element of strategizing and consulting and yapping and getting into the weeds with people.
Yeah.
And I know that the reason why I work with one-on-one providers who are doing done for you services so much is you love your craft, you're good at it. If you could just find a way that where you weren't so freaking burnt out and tired about actually doing the business, then you would actually love it again and you wouldn't need to pivot your entire business model to be a one to many or be digital or be whatever, which has its own pros and cons that none of us give enough time.
Yeah.
And it's that exact space of just like I want people to have some discernment going into 2026 of what is the actual issue that you're having with how you get leads or how you onboard clients
Mhm.
or how you serve those clients or whatever it might be. And instead of flipping everything on its head and trying a completely different model where you're going to run into those exact same problems in another way,
Yeah.
let's really analyze and audit and make some changes where we can. And I love that you're serving people who are experienced and bored. I what I tell people inside one of the lessons I recorded actually today for some of my done with you curriculum is uh, productization is the boring version of business. And
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you, it is its biggest con because if
Yeah.
you are not comfortable with being bored, you could create a whole slew of issues for yourself that have nothing to do with your business, that have nothing to do with productization. And ask me how I know because I've monetized a side hobby. I've left a company. I've done whatever, all for all of those reasons. And it takes work for us to sit in that boredom and ask ourselves what we really want and what is a hobby and how do we want to be living our lives and what do we want to be doing. And
Yeah.
I love that you're getting to be on that journey with people.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm working with a lot of I would say it can be strategists, coaches, or service providers, but really the service providers that are providing strategy
Yeah.
as part of their service is
Yeah.
really where
Yeah. Me. She's
my
talking to me, guys.
yeah, golden nugget is, because what I find is that you give so much to everyone else that there's then not enough space in your brain or not enough space and time that is created to like or someone that's in your corner because you're always giving. And I will say that same for me.
Yeah.
I felt like this many times, like I'm giving so much. I need this for me. And that's why I believe in, business. I always am hiring business strategy
Yes.
coaches and stuff
Yes.
because I need a thought partner, and that's I think the difference when you're a seasoned business owner, you don't need a lot more information. Now, we're all still learning, right? We're always learning different ways and different aspects of
Right.
our life and business, for sure. But I think the biggest key is we need thought partners and strategic thinkers that we don't have to like give you the strategy and then like, how do we do this? And then can you implement it? And it's like, no, I just need to kind of brain dump this. And another person that thinks maybe not the same way, but like has that strategic thought, and can look at your business in a way. And so I really love working with people that are strategists and coaches, not to just coach them because I people call me a coach, but I think I'm more of a strategist for
Yeah.
sure.
I
I think
agree.
coaching comes with like the mama bear. I want to help you. And so,
Yeah.
um, I think consulting is probably more of what I do too.
Yes.
But people throw around the different titles and I'm like,
For
whatever you
sure.
want to call me, I don't care. Just
Whatever.
like if we want to work together and it works out great. But yeah, I think being in that space where I can provide space for people that provide so much space for others and are constantly thinking about other people's business is like,
Mhm.
let's think about yours and how you get to the next level. And when we say the next level, it doesn't have to be like
It's
growing,
your
and
next
it's
level.
it's whatever that looks like for you. That could
Yep.
be, I wanna downsize, I don't want a team, I don't whatever that is,
Yes.
let's throw the cookie cutter shit out the window and actually create strategies and thoughts and processes for people individually in their business and what works for them, and
Yes.
not base it off of the lifestyle of the coach, which is
Surely.
could be a whole another podcast, let's be
Mhm.
honest.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like,
Well,
I'm
maybe
over
you'll
it.
yeah, maybe you'll bring it up into your new show as well, and I think, yeah, there's so many spokes of this conversation that we could be yapping all day. Well, I wanna first of all, thank you so much for coming on and for opening up and for giving us a peek behind the curtain, and it's been so long since we've caught up, and this
No,
has been so great.
I like it.
Will you please, remind my listeners where they can learn more about you, hang out with you online, maybe buy your new book next year, maybe the year
We'll
after?
see. We're looking if there's anyone out there that's looking to, I'm looking for a
Hello.
literary agent and a publishing house right now. So, that's the
Yes.
next step. Yeah. So, heathercrabtree.com is where you can find everything. And on Instagram, I'm Heather Business Coach.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Heather. This has
Thank
been
you.
amazing.
Yeah, same.
Thank you so much for listening to Sell the Damn Service. If you loved what you heard today, do me a quick favor. Hit subscribe, leave a rating, and drop a review. It seriously helps more service providers find the show, and it keeps me yapping into this mic every week. It's a nice, free, easy lift way for you to support the show. And hey, if you've got a friend who needs to hear this, please send this episode their way. The more people selling their damn services with confidence, the better this whole industry gets. See you next time.